Hey there, thank you guys for joining me today. I am here with my special guest, Professor Julie Rowlett. She is a professor of mathematics, she is an author, and she is also co founder of Kluero. I'm really excited to bring her here today to talk about how it started and how it's going. So, Julie, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Amanda. It's really a pleasure.
So I know, I need to teach myself a lesson and just hit record the minute that I start having a conversation with my podcast guests because some of the best stuff comes whenever we aren't recording. But before we get into all of that really fun conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am originally from Seattle, Washington, and I that's where I grew up. Um, I went to university at the University of Washington. Um, Part of the thinking there was, I visited some other places and I thought, well, these seem nice, but they're way more expensive. Why not stay here? University of Washington seems pretty darn good and save us some money. So I think my parents were rather happy about that. Um, then I decided to do a PhD in math. And the way it works when you do a PhD in math and certain other fields as well is you typically get a full scholarship. And so that means they pay not just your tuition, but your like cost of living expenses.
Hmm.
So for the PhD, I went to Stanford.
Okay.
And
What is
so
your undergrad in?
math,
Oh, okay. All math.
all math. So when I started university, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I thought about becoming maybe a doctor.
Yeah.
Um, I thought about being a vet. I thought about doing this degree program where you'd be a vet and get a PhD and then doing conservation.
Oh, wow.
Um, but through and through, I kept taking these math classes and I had some amazing professors.
That helps.
And I realized that in some of these other professions, things can be sad.
Aw.
But in math, it's never really sad.
Some people might disagree with you.
I mean, it's abstract. There's numbers. If I make a mistake, I erase it and
Yeah.
work on it some more. It's not usually life and death.
No. When you were kind of exploring things before you settled on math, were you taking classes or were you just thinking about it and looking into it? Or were you actually actively going into it and trying some things?
So I was taking different classes at the university. I didn't really I mean, I guess I did biology classes, but I was also a volunteer at the Woodland Park Zoo. Um, so I had some experience with the zoos and conservation, and I've always been an animal lover. Um, so I've always had pets.
Yeah. Okay. So you got your PhD at Stanford.
Hmm.
Did you do research? Do you do so I'm a science person. So if you get a degree in science, usually you're doing some lab work, right? You're in a lab, you're doing all this research for your dissertation and all the things. Was a math PhD like that or was it not like that? Were you in a lab all the time doing things or how did that work?
So this is one of the things I love about theoretical math. Um, my research often occurs with this is the sophistication level of the tools that I need.
Uh-huh.
So I don't have to be in a lab um, to do my research.
So
Right.
what was your specialty, if you will? What was your focus for your PhD?
My research focuses on interactions between analysis and geometry. And so, geometry, I think we can all understand, it's like shapes.
Mhm.
And when I say analysis, um, what that really means is I'm studying certain mathematical equations, and the ones that I'm interested in come from physics. So, these are equations that describe you probably know the equation distance equals rate times time.
Mhm.
Well, there are more complicated equations that describe things like heat or quantum particles, waves, electromagnetic fields. I love such equations.
Okay.
And I like to see how does geometry, like the shape of things, affect the physics of what's happening. So you could imagine, like, how does the shape of my pie tin affect the way my pie is going to turn out?
Uh-huh.
That would be, I mean, I'm not researching such concrete questions,
Right. Yeah.
but if you turn that into mathematical equations, then that could be something related to what I look at.
So going into getting your PhD, first of all, that's not just like, "Oh, I guess I'm just gonna go get a doctorate." Like, it's a decision, and it does take a lot of effort and, um, dedication. What at that time, what were you thinking you were gonna do with that? Did you have an idea already of kind of a career path with it, or were you know what I'm saying? Like, what did you wanna do once you completed that study for,
I
like,
think
for a career?
I think my professors during my bachelor's studies were just huge role models for me. So I wasn't I knew that it was very hard to become a professor, but I thought that was my dream.
Okay.
If I could, I would want to, and I would want to be like they were because I had some very, like, kind and encouraging and patient professors. I think a lot of people have bad experiences in math
Yeah.
where, you ask a question and then the person you're asking the question to makes you feel like stupid.
Yeah.
And my experiences, at the University of Washington was really the opposite of that. They were very kind and patient.
That's
Uh,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, math is, I think, either it gives people a visceral reaction of some kind, like, they're like, "Oh my gosh, no," or they're like, "Oh yeah, I love it. It's great." So you went into getting your PhD with the idea that you wanted to be a professor as well?
If I could if I could succeed, um, I had, I guess, humble aspirations. I'll do my best.
Okay. So, you get your PhD, and then what happens?
Um, then so it was a little bit kind of scary because I didn't in the kind of at the time when my peers were getting job offers, didn't have one yet, so I was a little bit freaking out. But then I eventually did get 2 job offers at the same time. So I first went to Montreal for half a year and was a postdoctoral researcher and also a teaching assistant there.
Mhm.
And then I went to the University of California, Santa Barbara for 2.5 years. Um, and those were great experiences. And then I applied again for jobs because that's how it works in the academic world.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I more or less had the choice between staying in the US and doing a teaching focused, very little research, if any,
Mhm.
or moving to Germany.
Wow.
And in the move to Germany, then I would have more opportunity with continuing both research and teaching, which was, my ultimate goal was to be a professor and be doing both.
How did you deal with the language difference?
Um, so I was a bit of an understimulated and very academically motivated child. So as a child, I started teaching myself French.
Okay.
And then when I went to high school, finally, I had the opportunity to study French
Mhm.
and had wonderful teachers who they gave me a private tutor. so that I could learn at my own pace. And then they also connected me with a pen pal.
Oh, fun.
Yes. And so then I ended up going to France one summer in high school on my own. So to my parents' utter dismay, I'm a 16-year-old girl flying alone to Paris and then navigating her way alone through the metro and through a
Oh my
city
gosh.
and taking trains. I can't believe, looking back, that well, I was pretty stubborn, but that they let me do this. And mm, it was great. And then, when you travel to a place like that and you're on your own and just surrounded by, French people.
Immersion. Just immersed.
Yes. So then I became fluent in French. And at the same time, I had really good friends in my high school who were American born Chinese,
Uh-huh.
and where I was spending tons of time, especially at this one friend's house. Her family is lovely. And I was like always over there because they were fun. And they were all speaking Mandarin. So I asked them, hey, will you teach me? And they started teaching me. And then at school, I had all these other American born Chinese friends. So I was just speaking Mandarin all the time in high school.
Wow.
And then I studied it to learn how to write and, learn it
Mhm.
more really at the university. But I'd had years, literally years of speaking. So
Almost an immersive experience there as well, because you're surrounded by them. You're not just trying to listen to a tape and,
yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
And then, saying naughty things about people if you look around and nobody can understand.
You can say whatever you want. So
Yeah, or I
how
mean,
did
teenage.
I've heard that once you master, not I won't I'll say master, but I mean we can always get better. But once you really acquire another language, it's that much easier to continue to do that. Is that true? Have you found that to be true? After you really got proficient in French and you started learning other languages, do you think it was easier to, do that since you were bilingual at that time, or did you think it made a difference at all?
I think if you're motivated, you can develop a sort of strategy for yourself, um, and learn what works for you, and then hone in on that. And so for me, that's listening to the language, and I love music.
Mhm.
So, before I moved to Germany, I was listening to lots of Rammstein.
I've heard a lot of people, even that come to the US, they will learn a lot of language through music.
Yes. You can just kind of get the feel for how it sounds a bit.
Yeah, and there's a rhythm to it. It's not just stagnant, like repeating these, monotone sentences over and over again. So, and there's
Mhm.
feeling in it, right? It's not just, yeah, like stagnant, plain.
And then the other aspects, or the other parts of like my personal strategy, is don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself. Just try it.
Mhm.
I've said so many ridiculous things in so many different languages. And if it makes people laugh, great. Um,
So, when you're teaching in German, are you teaching in German or are you teaching in English? I feel like ordering dinner in another language, you have some leeway for mistakes, right? But professor teaching, you don't really. You need to be pretty clear on what's going on. So how did you do that? Teach in the other language without being native in that language.
I mean, again, it's don't be afraid to make mistakes. So I was learning German learning as I go and taking some German classes. Um, but then that's, I guess, one of the advantages with math. So if I write the correct
Mhm.
equations, then I'll give you an example. There's what we call in English a power series. And in German, I didn't know how to say this. So I translated it using Stromreihe. And Strom to me was like power, but it really more like means electricity.
Oh.
And the second part, Raya, is series. So I was calling it an electricity series.
Okay.
Just ridiculous. But the students understood the equations I was writing. The equations were correct. The workers just,
But the
you know,
nomenclature not.
and then, a kind student said, you know, Dr. Rowlett, it is not a Stromreihe, it is a Potenzreihe.
Okay,
So,
so you had half of it right.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you were in Germany teaching at university, I'm assuming.
hmm
And then how long did that last?
So I had some different positions in Germany and always trying to land a permanent position, either in certain parts of the US or certain parts of Europe.
Mhm.
Um, and then I eventually did get a permanent position in Germany, but it was a lot of teaching and very little opportunity for research. It was still a good position with kind colleagues and nice students, good students, hardworking. But then I had the opportunity to come to my current job in Sweden, which has a much better balance of teaching and research. So
Mhm.
I moved here about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow, 10 years. Okay. And so you do some research, you do some teaching. And do they have a structure there where you are like they have in the US with tenure where you have kind of some security and know that you're going to be coming back and doing this over and over again?
They have different types of contracts. It's not exactly the same as the tenure system, but you can have a permanent contract. So tills vidare anställd, which means until basically unlimited employment.
Uh-huh. So that was another language you needed to learn.
Yes,
So now I feel like if I want to come to Europe, I'm just going to come to you and you can take me around because you can speak all of the things. So
exactly. I have done that with friends, so I'm very happy to do.
so you're 10 years you're at this position, but that's not the only thing that you do. So I know that you have co-founded a company called Kluero. Kluero, am I saying that right?
Yes.
And so tell me more about that and how you were able to do something so I mean, it sounds monumental while holding down this full-time job.
So when I arrived to the university, again, I dove into learning the language and
Mhm.
just making mistakes left, right, and center. But, people were friendly and we'd laugh together. And I remember I took the campus tour for new employees in Swedish, and everyone thought that was so bold because I did that like a month after I arrived. Um, and there was this building that I sort of put a pin in my head, and they called it the innovation office. And they explained that the tour guide that in Sweden, if you're a professor and you or any level of academic working at the university and you have an idea um, kind of as a spin-off from your work that you could commercialize, the university lets you own that
Wow.
completely. It's called the teacher's privilege, I think.
Uh-huh.
And not only do they let you own that, they will support you in developing this utilization of your idea.
Mhm.
And one of the ways where they support you is with this innovation office, where they have innovation advisors who give you great advice, support you in applying for funding so that um, you can hire a consultant to help you explore the feasibility. You can hire a patent attorney to investigate like a patent feasibility or a novelty search. Um, and so I just thought, okay, I'm going to keep this in the back of my head in case I ever have an idea where I think my abstract, esoteric math research could actually create like value in the real world.
Mhm.
And then, um, so then my boyfriend at the time, who I'd met many years earlier in Germany, um, he decided a year after I moved to Sweden that he would also move, and he applied to this entrepreneurship, a school of entrepreneurship and business design. He applied to that program and he got in, and he was thrilled, and moved, and he started in that program. And one of the things that they did in that program is they would go and talk to different researchers at the university to try to find ideas that could potentially be commercialized.
Uh-huh.
And so we found something.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, that was maybe 8 years ago, where we
Oh,
first
wow.
had this sort of fledgling idea.
Okay. We have things like that here, I think, similar, and they're not necessarily associated with a university, but maybe even communities have them, and they're called incubators. So it's kind of the same thing where but it's I love the idea that your university has this place for you to go beyond your just day to day, some research, some teaching, not minimalizing that at all or minimizing it, but it's another outlet. And I don't know if this happens, but do you have opportunities for even some of your students to help with the ideas and bring those to life in that innovation center? You know what I mean? So it's not just like the instructor, the professor lone wolfing this idea, but it's more of a collaboration. Is that how it works? Or it can work?
It can work. So I actually currently have the so that fledgling idea grew and grew and grew, and then we eventually founded a company. And one of my co-founders, um, who's essential to what we do with her knowledge and skills, she's one of my former students from Germany.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that that's like karma giving me a little pat on the back for having been a kind, good teacher.
Yeah.
Because she ended up collaborating with us because after I moved, some years after I moved, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Gothenburg, which is my city in Sweden, for a conference. Do you remember me? And would you maybe want to meet up?" And I said, "Jill, of course I remember you. I'd love to meet up with you." And that's where I discovered that her research, she had gone on to become a PhD student, and she was doing this research in applied computer science, and that would be like the perfect complement to my research in being able to do what we do in Kluero.
Yeah. So what is that? What do you do on Kluero?
Um, in Kluero, we build and foster unbeatable teams.
What does that mean?
I'll take it. I'd like to explain it from the theory side. So I do some research in something called game theory.
Okay.
And game theory can be used, or it is used, to understand, among other things, interactions between people.
Okay.
But I actually first came to game theory studying interactions between microbes.
Interesting. A math
And
person studying microbes?
well, it gets even more interesting than that. This was not originally my idea. So I was working in Germany and I got this email out of the blue from this oceanographer. And saying, would I be interested in talking to her and maybe, exploring the possibility of collaboration? And I first thought, who is this person?
Yeah.
Are they for real? And then I looked her up and, oh yes, she's a very well respected, fantastic scientist. And so then we started talking, and she showed me. So she focuses on plankton, which are little tiny microbes that live in water.
Mhm.
Um, Fun fact: plankton collectively produce more oxygen than all terrestrial plants combined.
Right.
more oxygen than all the plants.
And you
So
can't even
these,
see it.
and you can't even see them.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So they're very, very important. Um, and so what she'd been able to do, which was a breakthrough, is like you said, you can't see them. They're super tiny. Um, and they can also be kind of fickle in terms of the exact water conditions they like. So what she managed to do is make conditions in the lab that kept them happy and then video record them swimming. So you could see the little individual tiny guys swimming around. So she shared with me these videos, and then she shared with me the mathematical equations that were being used to describe how they were moving.
Mhm.
And I could immediately see those are the wrong equations
Interesting.
because they were a type of equation known as a diffusion equation, which I'd studied in my PhD. And at the level of the individuals, what that should mean is that they're just moving and bumping into each other randomly. But when you watched them, they weren't random.
So they're not like what I will say electrons just floating around and bouncing around off of things,
I
right?
mean, there's certain rules, for how electrons and various quantum particles of physics move. But yeah, exactly. I mean, roughly speaking, exactly. They're not just sort of chaotically.
Yeah.
No, there's some sort of strategy to what they're doing. And that's where the game theory comes in.
Okay.
Because game theory describes situations where individuals, in this case, plankton, are behaving according to some strategies. And so I sort of worked with this game theory to develop a game, if you will, for competing species of plankton, where competing could mean competing with each other, but it could also mean competing with what the environment throws at them.
Mhm.
And I worked on this with Suzanne Mendendoyer, my research partner, the oceanographer, for many years. And I could eventually say things like, oh, this is how you make a really strong plankton species. This is what the species should look like. This is how you make a plankton species improve, how it's doing over time. But then I realized, these are all just mathematical equations.
Uh-huh.
And equations don't know the difference between plankton or, say, people.
Right.
So I could take those same sort of mathematical insights and look at what they mean for teams of people.
That's
How do you
incredible.
put together so in theory, I can tell you how to make an unbeatable team.
Mhm.
And I can tell you also how to continuously improve your team over time. But that, of course, is in theory.
Right.
And that's where Jill, my former student, comes in because her research is about software tools for teams.
Okay.
So she actually researches people, real life people
And we
working in a
say
team.
teams, we're talking in a business, right? Or is it just about I mean, I know a little bit about the company and the software, but is it primarily for business or does this work with any kind of team that has to work together for a common goal?
It can work for any kind of team. Um, and that's our vision
Mhm.
is to
Okay.
be able to bring this and provide value to all kinds of teams.
But for the first part of the focus, would you say it's primarily on the business type teams, management, leadership, and down?
Yes. So right now, what we've come to understand, thanks also to Jill's research. So understanding what kind of tools are helpful for team, what are the characteristics of them, um, how do you work well with a team, with a tool, etc. We've come to understand that teams that can really benefit the quickest from what we can offer them are like in small to medium enterprises who work project based.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important in the concept of a team that people are really interacting with each other and, like you said, have a common goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a SME that works project based, it's really important that they function well together to reach their, deadlines. And also things like retention are very important
Right.
because when someone leaves and you have to hire, that's like hugely expensive.
Start over almost with someone and get them back up to speed where that person was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you can help keep the team both functioning well and feeling well,
Mm-hmm.
then you keep the productivity high, but also retain people because they're feeling good.
And they're doing the things that don't drain them, right? Would you say you're helping people kind of stay within their zone of genius, if you will, or even a zone of excellence than by because I feel like a lot of people, if they're stuck doing something they're proficient at, but it's not their passion. No, I won't even say passion. That sounds like, oh, everybody should just be following their passion. But, we have levels of competency. And if you have a team and you have people that you love and they're great, but they're not performing well in their role, you can well, if you're a conscious leader, you will have conversations and figure that out without just letting them go and figure out where they really should be or the
Mhm.
tasks or the jobs or the things that they should be doing. Does your software, I'll call it software, does it help leaders with that to make sure like they have this great team, making sure the team members are doing the things that they're really the best at?
Yes, and that's been one of the main, benefits that we've seen with the use of our tool. It's called Clue, because it gives, clues.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um,
So it's
we've been able to help, like, restructure, for example, a team by seeing. And then it's really interesting when we make these observations and we bring them forth, there will be these, "Oh, we hadn't thought of that. Oh, yeah, that makes sense." And then, people might change roles within a team and then do even better.
Yeah, for sure. So, how it started was you're just a lifelong learner, basically. You are a student and you're still a student, really. Because, I mean, when you're doing research, you're still just learning. So, a lot of stories that I share, how it started and how it's going, these are complete like pivots, right? Like, oh my gosh, I started out, cleaning houses and now I'm a millionaire with doing all these other things over here, like completely different. But your journey so far has really been on the same path. And the way I see it, which we talked about, is you started maybe on a narrow path, but now your path is just getting, you're still on the same path, but it's just getting broader. It's getting wider a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's exactly a
Yeah,
great
you
description.
aren't changing things so much. You're not like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of math. I'm gonna go do English literature," or something. Like, you're not scrapping your life's work, but you're now you just building and building and building on it. Um, and what I'm also seeing is that you have been able to surround yourself with some of the best people. Now, whether that was intentional or if that's like an attraction because of your own personal energy, right? Because I'm sure there's students in the classes that you took with great professors that may not have had great experiences. I think it's all individual, like how you approach situations. But what I'm hearing from your journey so far is that you have taken chances that a lot of people would not have done. You have stepped way out of your comfort zone, but you've also been able to connect with or surround yourself with other people that have similar passions and visions. So is that accurate so far?
Yes, I think that that's a very good and important point. It's a little bit related to, sometimes people ask me about the challenges of being a woman in math since we're still quite underrepresented.
Mhm.
And, you know, there what I my attitude is, there are going to be some people that I don't really enjoy interacting with.
Mhm.
But then there's a lot of really lovely, wonderful people, and I would just rather spend my energy,
You focus on
um
those.
yeah.
Yeah. And also in tech, because this new platform that you have is a tech platform, basically. Would you consider it a SaaS, like a software as a service type model? So
Yes.
that is also a very male dominated field, right? In this tech place. So I, for one, I'm in a male dominated field as well with when it comes to business consulting, and speaking and things like that. But it doesn't affect me, like, I don't even think about it. Do you is that even something you think about? I don't. I don't feel like I'm held back by because I'm a woman, or I don't feel like I have an advantage or a disadvantage. I just feel like if I show up and do my best and wanna contribute, to society and the world, then I'm gonna have the opportunity to do so. It never to me, it never comes up, but you're in a different academia thing, different environment. So does that come up for you, like being a female in the space?
I mean, one of the things you sometimes notice is who collaborates with whom,
Mhm. And that
and
happens in every industry.
so, I mean, if people were really sort of neutral, then if you had, let's say, 20% women in your field, and it's a field like in research, it's essential to collaborate. People collaborate all the time. It's very co-authoring,
Mhm.
research projects. Um, if people were neutral, then you'd expect sort of maybe 20% of the time having some female co-author,
Yeah.
if it's like 80-20. So I do find it kind of strange when there are these people who basically never ever co-author with women, just ever.
It's like it's 1950 all over again.
It's like that is, but at the same time, there are so many lovely people, men, women, whoever, um, who do, work with, uh, for example, me as a co-author, exactly the same as they do with the men.
Yeah.
So I think it's just if you can surround yourself again with those positive, kind, people who will just see you for what you have to offer and not be concerned with, you know, your gender or any other
Yeah.
superficiality, then, then you don't have to pay attention to it so much, I
Right.
suppose. And I think also in Sweden, um, it's a kind of a good place for women.
Mhm. What is your goal moving forward with this platform? The Kluro.
Well, we initially want to, start creating value for SMEs who work project based,
Mhm.
because we've seen that we can do that, and then continue growing in that sector, but then also moving out because the theory applies to every possible kind of team. It could be a football team. It
Right.
could
Yeah.
be, it could be a group of kids who have to work together on a project. Kids, school kids, university kids, adult kids in, uh,
Yeah.
working on projects, or it could be development teams, software development teams who are working on a video game, or
Right, so it's not
it could
just
be
about leadership or just about HR departments. It could be it's so versatile and can be used for a lot of different things. Is it up and running now? Are people able to inquire about it and potentially work with with you or with whomever you have, helping install or use the platform, is it live or is it almost live?
I would say, for people who are a little bit like, um, it's ready for early adopters.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can kind of see our vision and be a little bit patient that it's not yet the mass market product,
Uh-huh.
where we're on our journey there, but we're really appreciative of people who will work with us and who want to try it out and who want to use it, that we want to, and we've seen we can provide value to them, but we also want to hear what their experiences are so we can continue making the product better.
Right, 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 right. What is the ultimate outcome that for right now in this phase that you're in that a team would get out of utilizing Kluro?
What we aim, our kind of vision is that Clue becomes a pleasant, fun, integrated, small part of their everyday or weekly, how they do things,
Mhm.
and something that they enjoy interacting with, and they feel, um, that it enriches and it makes their work and their work experience more positive.
And there is an AI component to it, right? It's not a totally AI thing, right? We're not just talking to ChatGPT here, but it does utilize AI for parts of the functionality. Is that right?
Exactly. And in the background, there's some fairly complicated mathematical structures that we build ourselves.
Mhm.
So we build our own neural network, and then we use that to train our own AI on our own network.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So it's not getting clouded from the collective.
no, not
Yes.
so much. I mean, there is some parts right now where we that we're where we're utilizing things, but the kind of main underlying architecture, that's all our invention, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
But then once we have that kind of structure set up, then we can use the methodology of machine learning and neural networks to sort of then continue building. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you have, say, 10 different organizations using the platform, is your platform collectively working with information from all of them, or is it each one in its own kind of container? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is it learning from like a learning model from all of the interactions from all the types of teams? Or is it each team has a kind of their standalone version?
Um, the learning process would be from everyone, and we're very careful with how we do this so that no individuals, we're very, very careful with, personal data.
Mhm.
We make sure that there's sort of no personal data in the learning process. That's the beauty of numbers.
Yeah.
Um, and then also the beauty of how we're always looking at a team interdependent. So we're never ever singling out individuals.
Right.
But then at the same time, so that's kind of the underlying process. And then the more specific sort of interacting with a specific team and that specific team using the tool, their experience is going to be custom and tailored to them.
Mhm.
So, what one team would see as, statements and topics coming up from Clue, that's gonna be unique to that team and their circumstances, and a different team would see completely different topics and statements being raised.
Right. So over time, will the platform and the experience evolve based off of the different situations that it encounters through working with, a variety of teams.
That's our plan. Yes, and I think that it's
But teams are always evolving too. So
exactly.
it doesn't
And I
stay.
have mathematical theorems that say that.
I'm sure you do.
That say that, you know, there is a concept of a perfect team, but reality is never really perfect. And if you're anything other than that perfect team, you can always continuously change in these
Mhm.
little amounts to be better than you were just before.
Right. Yeah. That's
Um,
incredible. So, like I said, your how it started, how it's going has all been kind of a continuum with expansion, I'll say. I don't talk in math terms, so I don't know what that would look like in that term. I gave up whenever they had me look at a Z plane out of coming at me. Like I was like, I can't see it, so I'm done. Um, because that happened, I think, in some calculus class. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't see the things that weren't there. Um, but is that true? Like you're not pivoting. You're not just saying, "Oh, I've always wanted to go do this thing. I'm gonna leave this behind and go do that." You are actively doing the thing that you wanna do within the scope of where you started.
yes, and something that I initially was just in love with math, beautiful
Mhm.
theoretical math. Um, but then later I liked this challenge. So a lot of this wonderful math, complex numbers, did you have to learn about those ones?
Probably. It was a very long time ago.
So complex numbers were like initially thought of as this like esoteric weird thing, totally useless. But nowadays, complex numbers are in signal processing, um, electricity, like
Mhm.
electrical engineering, our cell phones, music compression. They are medical imaging. I
Uh-huh.
mean, they're everywhere. But they were initially thought as this like useless, silly math idea.
Yeah.
But it took so that's what I think is kind of it's a challenge, right? To see how you can take new theoretical math and turn it into real world tangible results,
Right.
benefit. So
Product.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw that as like a challenge.
Nice.
Um, and so that's one of the things I'm doing with Clue. And then I have a few other projects, trying to do similar things.
Uh-huh. What do you see for yourself over the next, say, 6 months with all the things, like, in career-wise? Do you see anything really just taking off like crazy? Do you see starting more things? Do you see maybe slowing down a little and just resetting? How does the next 6 months look for you?
Kind of busy.
That's all right.
Yeah. Because I currently have Plural, which is we're starting to have our first customers
Mhm.
and we're talking to some investors. Um,
Do you have
so
a
that's
goal with that platform is to potentially build it up and sell it? Or do you see it more as kind of a child that you don't think you'll get rid of?
I mean, I think it all depends on the circumstances.
Mhm.
I certainly wouldn't want it to fall into a abyss and never be used.
Right.
But if eventually along the way, Clue gets integrated into Teams and then Microsoft says they want to buy Kluero, the company, if they're going to have it integrated in Teams and be, then having it used broadly, well, great.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone eventually wants to, buy it and then continue having it create value in all the different places we can imagine, then good for them. Yay.
Yeah.
But I imagine that would take some time.
Right.
So I don't think that's in the very near future. And then with my other projects, we're Um, we're figuring things out.
That's the fun part.
Yes. And my other projects, they involve students as well, but
Nice.
actually current students.
Uh-huh.
So you'd asked about that before.
Yeah. I think it's a really important thing that's missing from academics in the United States anyway. I can't speak to what's happening out of the country, but just in my own experiences, and then now watching my son having gone through 4 years of, university, there's not a lot of real worldness happening, in the the learning process. And I feel like there's a lot of room for that to be improved. And it could just be the degrees that we were in, right? But I think that there is a lot of room for at least the United States post secondary education to really start seeing these students as contributors rather than consumers of
Mm.
information. It's just, I feel like it's like, okay, here, spoon feed you the, Excel formulas, pass your tests, and go to the next class. It's not like, how am I gonna, like, why would I ever really be doing this ever? And it makes it more relatable, but you also have such brilliant kids. I'm gonna say kids because I'm talking about, like, even my own son. Like, you have these brilliant minds that aren't being used to make things better. You're just feeding them stuff and hoping that they get something out of it. So, it might be different where you are. It sounds like it is a little bit different. And it may be just because of the nature of what you study as well.
I mean, USA universities, at least in math, there are many undergraduate research opportunities. Now, these might not be it, and those can be very broad. So, an
Mhm.
undergraduate research opportunity could be doing research with the goal of finding something that you can use in the real world to benefit certain processes
Mhm.
or solve problems. So those, at least in math, the US is actually pretty good about offering those. And I did one when I was an undergraduate, which helped
Oh, nice. Yeah. I like
get
too
one in the.
how your path kind of was ignited by a cross-curricular collaboration, if you will, with the ocean biologist and math. Those are not two things that you normally think of together, right? And so I love how that person was able to recognize the need for your skill set and bring it into this amazing project that people, I mean, general population doesn't understand the value of plankton. It's not something we talk about all the time. But yeah, think about if there was we had it no more, we would be no more, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think it's wonderful how there wasn't this compartmentalization of the subject matter, and it was more of a collaboration. I hope that there's more of that going on. And I think too, with your math skills and the tech skills and now going out into business and helping people, that's the kind of thing I love to see. Um, it just creates a more well-rounded machine, regardless if it's a team, like a sport team or a business team, rather than just very, in a box.
Yes, exactly. That's part of, you know, what we see with other tools that are being used is it's common. The two common things. One are really long surveys that take a lot of time. And then also, if you do it at like the time and your circumstances when you do this can really affect the outcome. And then how that survey is often used to sort of put you in a box.
Yeah.
And our approach is different. First of all, we don't want people to have to take a lot of time to use our tool.
Mhm.
We want people to be able to use it quickly. Also, because then we think their responses are going to be more spontaneous, more honest.
Mhm.
And then, second, we always look at a team altogether, not each person in their little box by themselves.
Right.
because fundamentally, we affect each other.
It's like an engine.
Yeah. Or I sometimes use the game of, rock, paper, scissors. But if we're playing rock, paper, scissors, what we choose to play next is going to be influenced by, like, oh, what happened the last time, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's incredible. I think I see a theme just by getting to know you through our conversation. I see a theme from you that you weren't afraid to take risks, even if they were calculated. Um, every little yes that you gave along your path so far has gotten you to this point. So, what what advice would you give someone who may feel that they aren't in that place to take those little risks? How important has that been, and how important do you think that is for someone that does really want to continue to excel on their path, but just maybe needs some encouragement to go ahead and say yes sometimes?
I think so. I've been, at least since I've gotten this permanent position, it was a lot more stressful when I was going from, you know, a time limited position to time limited
Mhm.
position. Um, Although even during that, I did write a book on the side, a math book.
I know, I wrote that
So
down. Where is it?
it's,
Blast into math.
mhm. I mean, so that was a thing that I didn't have a permanent position, and people said, "You're really gonna, do that?" And it had come from my teaching and some lecture notes that just sort of grew and grew and grew. And I really had a vision with that. It's related to how you said before that some people just have this visceral, like,
Yeah.
and I think it's the way math is unfortunately communicated or taught.
Mhm.
And it can be very discouraging. And there's this old fashioned, writing that this is a trivial exercise left to the reader. And if you see that and you don't think that the exercise is trivial, you struggle with it, you feel stupid.
Mhm.
And then you might feel sad and it might eat at your self-confidence. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm very opposed to that. And I wanted to write something that would give real serious math, not watered down, but be kind to the person reading the book, to the person solving the exercises, be encouraging to them, and illustrate these abstract concepts with hand drawn pictures by one of my mathematician friends.
Nice.
Um, Especially for the transition when students go from sort of plugging things into formulas to having to actually come up with new mathematical arguments or solutions, that they can't just sort of plug and chug.
Right.
That can be sometimes a gap that's difficult for people, and I wanted to make this book to sort of help them through that. And like you, it's possible to get my book for free,
Nice. Okay.
which I thought was very cool that you do with your book.
Yes. Where I'll put the links in the notes, but what is the URL for people to go to get that?
So the digital version is currently offered by they're called Book Boon. Although that's going to be changing in, I think, March.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be putting the digital version on a globally accessible uh, server. It's called the Archive.
Okay.
Um, that's my plan, at least. And then there's also print versions available from Amazon.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Okay. That's everybody knows that.
yeah, but I like the concept of having the digital version for free, so that literally anyone in the world who wants to learn this math, they can learn it. And
Yeah.
then for anyone else, Well, I mean, they can check it out for free, and if they like it, they can get a point
Right.
card.
Okay, that's awesome. And then how about Kluro? How do people find out more about that?
Um, you can I think a good platform to contact us is through LinkedIn.
Okay. Yep. Who
We're working on our homepage. I mean, we have a homepage, but I don't think it really does us justice.
Right. So more, and especially in this early phase, it's better just to connect and have a conversation rather
Mhm.
than just go read about it and make your own choice if you want it or not. So, um, I like to end on, if you could give someone a piece of advice as they are going on their own journey through their career and their life, what would that be? And I know that's a very broad thing, but you have a lot of subject areas, I guess we could call them, that you could advise someone. So I'm going to let you pick. If you were talking with someone that has like ideas and potential and just isn't really sure what to do next, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I think if you're able to have some sort of basis or fallback that can help you then give yourself a chance. So, and if you really feel like, I really think I could do something with, so I'll give an example. In my experiences as a graduate student, I got a lot of positive feedback about my teaching as a teaching assistant. So I was fairly confident that I could go out and take on a teaching position, which there are plenty of, universities that have teaching focused positions. But I I really thought that I had something to offer in research as well. But I didn't get as much, encouragement. Um,
Mhm.
and I did run into I would share my ideas with other mathematicians, and people would say, "Oh, that's interesting," but they wouldn't sort of connect with me to collaborate together early on. And so I had one particular idea, and I thought, okay, I'd really like to work with someone who maybe knows a little bit more about this, but people are just not, they're just not grabbing it. So I said, okay, I'm going to give myself, you know, a summer
Mhm.
and just throw myself at this problem. And if I can make progress on it by myself, then I should give myself the chance to keep trying with research. So I did.
So the advice then is go for it. Yes.
I guess go for it. I mean, if you really sort of and trust your gut to
Yeah.
some extent, you know, um, and give yourself that opportunity, but then maybe have something that you feel good about to fall back on. Because I love teaching, so I always felt like, okay, if I end up finding out that I'm a crap researcher, I can be very happy being a good teacher.
Right. Yeah.
So, if that balance between give yourself the chance, but also maybe find something that you would be, content with to fall back on.
Uh-huh. A safety net of sorts.
Yeah.
When you have that safety net, I feel like it gives you almost more courage to go forward and try
Mhm.
something, because there's an there's an old statement that says burn the boats, right? Go all in. Well, sometimes we just don't have the opportunity. Like, I have 2 kids to take care of and, bills to pay and responsibilities. I'm not burning the boats for an idea that I hope is gonna work. But if I have my safety net, I'll call it, and I have the time to put into the thing, then I feel like I can go forward with that with more confidence and less scarcity, if that makes sense. Because if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, we're still safe, right? And
Yes,
I
it's not
tried it.
Mhm. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work.
Yeah. Now I know there's other people that are saying, "No, no, you gotta go all in. There's no plan B. There's only plan A." And I just think at the stage of life that I'm in and the experiences that I've had, I have not ever been in a position where I'm gonna compromise the safety and security of my family on an idea that I have that I hope will work. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just how it's been for me. So I do like that advice for others. Like, try it, but know that you have something you can go back to as well. A lot of people that I talk to, when they do pivot in their careers or however in their jobs or whatever it is, create their own business. I have talked to a lot of people that have done it in a way that they haven't burned bridges. So
Mm.
it's not like, screw you, I'm out of here. I hate this job. I'm never coming back. Instead, it's more like, this has been a really great opportunity, but I feel like there's something more. And it becomes more of a supportive growth thing, like a parent letting their child leave the nest rather than just like, you're fired, get out of here. We can't have you going off and doing something else. So I think that's been a theme for the people that I've come in contact with. It's almost like how you're working in tandem with your ideas while also serving proficiently and more so in your role as professor. I think you don't have to burn it all down, whether that's relationships or anything else, to go for what you want.
Yes, and I mean, I have a bit of the luxury of, like, being able to have a role as an idea provider. So also what I love and what has happened is, the ability to turn my ideas into jobs for other people.
Right.
If Kluro grows, and is hiring more people and growing, then isn't that beautiful that my theoretical ideas now turn into jobs? And of course, it I mean, it's Kluro, so we're gonna want very happy employees and a positive work
Yeah.
environment and well-functioning we use Kluro on ourselves. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. You want to be a product of your product. An
exactly.
example of that. Yes. I do
But
love that. You're creating opportunities for others to then flourish and thrive and
Mhm.
contribute uh, at the same time as fulfilling your own, desires for growth.
Yes, it's like, I'm not gonna change my career, but I can provide a bunch of new jobs, careers for other people.
Right.
Yay.
I love that because it's a different perspective on you. Yeah, you love what you do, and that's amazing. So many people don't. But so you're still able to do the thing you love, but also do this other thing as well. So how it started, how it's going doesn't have to be a complete 180 from each other. It can just be together, but bigger. So,
And part of what makes that possible is the amazing team that I work with in Clue
mhm,
or Kluro. Clue's the software, Kluro is the company, but, our team is fantastic, and, of course, I couldn't do that. I couldn't have that on the side on my own.
right. Yeah, it'd be a lot. Be too much.
It's Yeah, it'd be too much. It's only possible through, like, the partnership where, I bring my skills to the team, and then everyone else brings all of their valuable skills to the team.
Yeah.
Like Donna, who was on your podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all of this. I see us having more conversations in the future for sure. I think we could keep going. If people would like to connect with you personally, what's the best place for them to do that?
Um, they could do that on LinkedIn.
Okay. I'll make sure I'll put all your connection links in the show notes for us. Again, I want to thank you for your time today. It was lovely having conversation with you. And yeah, I can't wait to have another one soon. Maybe in person.
Sure. And maybe we could talk about, what we were discussing before with,
With our thought.
AI and thoughts.
Yes, I love it. Coming soon.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys so much. See you soon.